Welcome back. You're watching Viewpoint with me, Griha. 39 authors returned their awards to the government in the year 2015 in order to register their protest over the killing of eminent Karnataka writer M.M. Kalaburgi, a movement oft referred to as Award Wapasi. That's how the writers claim to be standing up to the growing intolerance in the country. An event that has since been deemed hugely embarrassing for the Modi government, more so as it happened just a year after it had assumed power. And now, as if to prevent a rerun of that very incident, a parliamentary panel has recommended making award winners sign an undertaking that they would not return their awards at any stage to protest any political incident. The panel has gone on to call such incidents involving return of awards inappropriate and ones that undermine the achievements of another awardees, at the same time, quote-unquote, impact the overall prestige and reputation of the awards. The panel also recommended that a system be put in place where an undertaking is taken from the proposed awardee, citing acceptance of the award and that the awardees cannot dishonor the award at any point of time in future. Also, in the event that the awards are returned, the awardee shall not be considered for such an award in future. The report, however, also recorded dissent from one of the committee members that has been also seconded now by another, who opined against such an undertaking, stating that such a move is against the freedom of speech and expression and also the freedom of protest in any form. Now remember, it is not as if the protesting stand was an insignificant one in 2015. It did ring the high corridors, with the Prime Minister himself taking a dig at the dissenting voices, calling them Award Wapasi gang, and many other pro-right voices calling it quote-unquote fashionable to return awards. Maybe that's why such a recommendation has come to light. While many call it an apt one, keeping in mind the importance of such an honor, others are calling it a passive muzzling of dissent.
Ridiculous suggestion. This takes away the fundamental right for expression, which includes the right to protest.
What the government had done is a disgrace to the country. To oppose it, I am doing it. The government is acting against the people. How I have the right to condemn it.
They should also understand that they are being awarded acknowledging their domains. They should not mingle up other things with their domains. Returning the award back is not a good symbol.
We are now joined on the broadcast by filmmaker Dibakar Banerjee, who was among the few filmmakers who had returned their national awards as a mark of protest against the government during the FTII controversy. Dibakar, thank you so much for being a part of this conversation. Now, you had returned your national award in 2015 because you were concerned about how the FTII governing body work was made illegal and the students were thrown into jail for it. So when this parliamentary panel says that no more returning of the awards or you're blacklisted for life, how do you see this move?
There is no personal response because I think from that time when we returned our awards, I'm definitely in that blackened list. So there's no personal response, but there's something that, that struck me about this. What struck me was that, forget everything else. Take very neutrally. When a state gives an award, it's an award from the citizens, right? The state is not a third party, which is above the citizens. The state is the citizen's servant. The state is by and for the citizens. And a state award is an award by a lot of citizens to one citizen. When one citizen is given an award and told by the state that, look, we are giving you this award, but in lieu of this award, your behavior from now on will be such and such. That's not an award.
Okay.
That's a bribe.
So you're basically saying that recommendation within quotes is muzzling of dissent, and by that they are ensuring that if at all you need any kind of national recognition, you have to toe our line or talk our talk. Is that what you're saying?
Which is what my point is. An award is designed to award some action or something that you've already done. An award is not something that you give for some future behavior. And if you're giving an award, and if after giving an award, you're saying that, look, I'm giving you this award, but first you have to sign that tomorrow you will not listen to the voice of your conscience and act according to the conscience. Then it's not an award. It's a bribe.
Okay. So, Dibakar, whether it is the National Award or the Sahitya Academy Award, what I understand is that it happens through back channel talks, probably also recommendations by people or stakeholders. So it has always had that sort of influence, even though it is you applying for that award. So don't you think that this sort of aspect has always been associated with the awards, or you feel that with the change in government, even the process of who will receive the award has changed?
I wouldn't know about that, because even when I was getting awards, I did not have a very clear idea of how awardees are selected. I don't think it's rocket science. I think every society in the country, in the world, does it the same way. There are a few people who decide, there are a lot of people who recommend, there are a few people who meet, and there is a list out of which you go to a short list and a shorter list and whatever. So I don't think that's the point. I think the point is that if an award is supposed to be given to somebody for some act that he or she has done, then that act is already done. You give the award to that person and you forget. That's what an award is. After you reward somebody, you don't hold the reward on that person's head. That's not a reward. That's a bribe.
Okay. So, while you returned your national award in 2015, you reapplied for getting one for your film Byomkesh Bakshi. And at that time, there were several people who had criticized that move of yours, that you are keeping double standards. What do you say to that now, after you've returned the award and then reapplied for Byomkesh?
I have the right to apply for an award, for a state award, after having criticized the state. That is what my right as a citizen is. I can be awarded the highest award in the land, and yet I have the right to criticize the state. If the award is given to me to silence my criticism of the state, it's not an award, it's bribe.
Okay. While you say that, Dibakar, many people at that time who were also pro-government voices had said that, look, if Dibakar, after protesting and returning his award, can reapply for another national award, then that means that there is no problem with artistic freedom in the country. How would you respond to those comments?
Of course there's a problem. My applying for an award is my right. I'm doing something creative, I'm applying for an award, and if while applying for that award, I can't criticize the state that gives me an award, then there is no artistic freedom. My artistic freedom should not come at the cost of me not being able to apply for an award. That is not freedom. And if the award is given so that I cannot criticize the state, then it's not an award. It's a bribe.
So when people go and say that this is what you were critiquing the government of, that is muzzling of dissent, not having enough freedom, whether it is artistic or not, and then you go about and you're given that sort of, importance to go ahead and reapply, which you do not have now, by the way, where lies the problem?
You mean a piddly film director returns his film direction award and that is a conspiracy against a state? That state has to be an extremely insecure and weak state. If that state is saying that me returning an award is an act of conspiracy against the state.
Okay.
I don't think it's a conspiracy against the state. I don't think anybody has the time to conspire against the state. Normal citizens have lots to do. They've got their lives to run. They've got food to put on the table. They've got to pay their taxes. They've got to earn their money. They've got to live. They've got to raise their children. We don't have the time to conspire against the state.
Okay.
But we do have the time to look at what's happening and say that as a citizen, I'm against it. And do whatever it takes to take the attention of the other citizens who might be willing to listen.
I understand that, Dibakar, that you were talking about the malified, comments that were made that this entire attempt at award Wapasi in 2015 was done as against the state. It was right ahead of the Bihar elections in 2015. But why do you think that in 2023, this sort of a recommendation has come in from this parliamentary panel all suddenly? And what does it mean for future awardees?
I'm afraid you'll have to ask those who have formed this law that, because I didn't form this law, I don't know. I can only surmise. This kind of a law which says that you can't do this, which in anticipation means that they probably are expecting a lot of award Wapasis. So they are trying to prevent it. And that's the only logical reason that I can think of. But I didn't think of this law. So I have no idea what goes on in the Byzantine sort of, corridors of this kind of thought. And I would be the last person to know as to why this law has been.
Right. All right, Dibakar, thank you so much for joining us and sharing in your 2 bits about what you have to say about this recommendation by the parliamentary panel. Appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. And on that note, let me open this up to my panel who joins me this evening. Chaman Lal, who's a former JNU professor. He, in fact, returned his award in 2015, is with us. Dr. Geeta Bhatt, who's an academician, is with us. And also with us is Aishwarya Mahadev of the Congress Party. Now, Mr. Chaman Lal, I'd begin with you since you have been one of the award returnees, members of that award Wapasi gang, like the Prime Minister had put in way back when he was talking about one rape incident in the state of Rajasthan. How do you see this move by the parliamentary panel? I would call that a recommendation still. And why do you think it has suddenly happened?
You see, I haven't gone through that report.
Okay.
So I don't have details. Only in Jansatta paper today, I saw the news which has, given a brief of the recommendation, which also says that those who have returned the awards and insulted, why they have been included in the, again, government panels as a member of jury or some other positions, etc. Now, that is something actually laughable kind of thing. Now, let me come to the things. This gang is not the 2015 one. Gang starts from the earliest times. If you take at the world level, Jayapal Sark has said that this Nobel Prize is a sack of potatoes, and he threw it away. Now, Nobel Prize is the biggest literary prize of the world. Now, he is our leader, gang leader. And then, Finishwarnath Renu, during emergency against the arrest of Jayaprakash Narayan, to whom this present regime will not, keep on highlighting highly, he has returned the award. Khushwant Singh, English writer, so in 84, against Blue Star, he has returned the award.
Yeah.
So we are not the new gang. We are part of the whole world gang who stand for the dignity and also anything which happens in society which is against the humanity. Now, what is the background? Why it happened in 2015? Narendra Dabholkar, the rationalist was murdered. Then Govind Pansare earlier was murdered. They were not murdered during the present regime. But it came to height when Professor Kalburgi was murdered. Now, he was such all these personalities have been a very great place in Indian society. Now, once this happened, it seemed that we have reached at a stage when the civil society, as a citizen, those people whom people expect that they should take some moral stand, they took the stand, and when one writer returned, in a series of that, people followed. Mine was a very small award, so, but then as a symbolic gesture, I also joined my colleagues. In Punjabi, Gurbachan Singh Bhullar took the lead. Now, he is our very senior writer. Now, then when Gurbachan Singh Bhullar took the lead, so many of us, joined this by returning the awards. When JNU was attacked in 2016, when our students were attacked, there was a huge torture of the students and they were falsely implicated in cases. Then again I returned another award which was of Central Hindi Directorate. Now they have abolished that award altogether. Now, I don't understand the kind of recommendation which I read about it, that they should take a pledge from the writers who are supposed to be given awards, that they will not return the award. Now, no self-respecting writer would ever give this kind of pledge or writing, because that will be petty writers, that will be third, second-rate writers who are, patronized by these kind of religious fundamentalist regimes.
Dr. Geeta, but would you like to respond to that? Because this is an important point that Mr. Chaman Lal is making. I'll come back to you, Mr. Lal. Let me actually get in a response, because I want to understand that, don't you think that such a move will probably deflate the entire purpose of giving the laurels to people who deserve it, because there are a lot of thinking individuals in that lot that needs that state honor, the national recognition. And if you actually put a claim that only if you toe the government's line or probably do not have any dissenting voice against the government, then only you are liable to get this award, otherwise not.
See, this is, as I understand, is a proposal. I think it has not been, is not already there in the in the book. But I think the whole, I was just listening to Chaman Lalji, and I was just thinking that, there were many occasions on which a large number of writers, they decided to return the award post 2014, and collectively they decided to return the award. And of course, as individuals, they had a right to go ahead and do so. But I was just wondering that when is it, and what came out as a press statement was that the environment in the country is not conducive. The cultural environment in the country is not conducive. But there were so many times when there were things which were very disturbing happening in the country before 2014.
But he said all of that, Dr. Geeta Bhatt. If you listen to Mr. Lal, he's also spoken about how Khushwant Singh returned his award when Blue Star was happening. So he's not just talking about Prime Minister Modi's regime. He's also talking about the other aspects. Yeah.
Allow me to complete, and then you can, put forth your comment on it. We know what happened in Kashmir, how quickly, Hindu women of Kashmir how brutal rapes took place in 1981, and that it was a kind of a genocide which happened there. But I failed to recollect if any writer who had ever come and returned an award in protest against what happened to the Hindus in Kashmir. I'm not able to recollect where was the self-respect and the moral stand that the well-meaning authors or writers of this country, they could not take it at such a time. So that makes a person think that it is a very, to put forth a very selective viewpoint, or to build a kind of a moral pressure, which just because they feel that the environment, that whether it is the political environment or the environment to which they are not.
Why do you think that is? Why do you think that is, Dr. Geeta?
Because when these kind of awards were returned, I also asked this, and I do think, because I also understand there are also cash prizes which come along with these awards. But I do not know. I mean, they may that whether when all these awards were returned, which are in form of medals or citations, is it that cash amount it was given?
No, there were many awardees that chose to return the amount also, but never before has this happened. This was an unprecedented event that could not have been possible, and that's why the checks could not be taken back. Let me actually bring in Aishwarya Mahadev, who's been patiently listening, and she also wanted to make a point over the statement that Dr. Bhatt was making. Yes, Aishwarya.
Good evening, Griha. I think in making a very rhetorical ad hominem attack, the Bhatt has basically insulted the integrity of the entire community of extremely talented, extremely, hardworking people whose contributions, which have been rewarded in the form of awards, she has called into question, and I think that's absolutely shameful. Griha, two very limited points. Quashing dissent to this degree is an absolute sign of decay of democracy. And you cannot use this selective outrage saying, questions what the reality is, because Griha, over time, in various countries across the world, you have seen symbolic protests having far more impact. Whether it is somebody's fist raised in an Olympic podium, or whether it is bending a knee, or whether it is returning an award, the symbolism of some of the brightest, most talented, some of the most intelligent people returning their recognition is what? It is not the action in itself. It is why it is being done that needs to be examined. The government should look and see that I am bestowing an honor on somebody, but what have I done, or what has my inaction led to, that these prolific people in society have decided to return this award? This is a form of the highest showing a mirror to authorities and the people in power, and this has been done over time. To suddenly stifle this with half-baked rhetoric and argument saying there's a money prize, it is an insult. Why would anybody who is, from what you would understand, a very knowledgeable, somebody who has brought laurels or has recognition through this award, move to the extreme of returning it, or that honor that has come to them? Obviously, the action is far severe, and I think this move by the panel is regressive.
But why do you think it has come in now? Why do you think after 2015 it has come in now in 2023? Why suddenly this recommendation?
I obviously believe if you look at the transition, the Prime Minister very sadly spoke in a very unstatesmanlike manner when he said, when he makes these gangs of whatever it is, he made them an award Wapasi gang as well, which was not only an insult to them because their collective contribution to the country is larger than anybody else's, but you realize that society as a whole, there are certain sections of society that have inherently protested about the atmosphere, the vitiation of hate and divide, and the death of scientific temper. And more people seem to come out and want to return it because this is their mark of protest. The government now foresees, especially looking at what is happening with the sort of human rights abuses and the sexual violence in Manipur, and now in Meghalaya you're seeing skirmishes. They would obviously want to close the floodgates on this. They want to quash it. Next thing you know, they're burning books, and whatever's happened to a civilization that has burnt books, Griha.
Absolutely. So right to protest is something that the government is trying to muzzle. That's the point that Aishwarya is making. Unfortunately, I have to wrap the debate on this because we are getting some breaking news. I'd like to thank all my panelists for joining me. Now the breaking news, CNN News 18 has managed to access that letter that Union Home Minister Amit Shah has sent out to Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary and also the Congress President Mallikarjun Kharge for that debate on Manipur. Now the Home Minister has sought cooperation in the Parliament, and he has gone on to say that Manipur wants to be assured by the leaders, adding that the Parliament has assured Manipur peace in the past as well. It will continue to do so. Let me actually take this across to my colleague Arunima, who has brought us exactly what the contents of this missive entails. Yes, Arunima.
I'm just reading out the letter. It's written in Hindi to both Mallikarjun Kharge and Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary. And why? Because the two of them are the leaders of the opposition in the House. So what it says is that हमारी संसद भारत के जीवंत लोकतंत्र की आधारशिला है. Essentially saying that Indian Parliament is something that is looked at as a symbol of democracy. And राज्यसभा राज्यों के परिषद होने के नाते हमारे लोकतांत्रिक ढांचे का एक विशेष स्थान रखती है. It's the House of Elders, it's the upper house. And then it goes on to say that, the way the Manipur issue has really panned out over the last few months. It is an important border state and it has a very important cultural history. It contributes to India's cultural history. Last 6 years, whatever has happened in Manipur, he has detailed that. And then he says that इस समय मणिपुर की जनता चाहती है कि हम सभी पार्टियों के संसद सदस्य उन्हें ये विश्वास दिलाए कि हम एक होकर मणिपुर की शांति के लिए संकल्पबद्ध है. That we forget our political allegiances, we get together and we commit and tell people of Manipur that we are committed to peace. So very, he's reaching out to Mallikarjun Kharge and Adhir Ranjan Chaudhary, telling them essentially.
So extending that olive branch, let's see if at all there is a discussion that eventually happens in the Parliament tomorrow, which will be the big question. All eyes will be both on Lok Sabha and the Rajya Sabha tomorrow. Arunima, thank you so much for that. With that, it's a wrap from my side on Viewpoint. My colleague Toya is up next with Plain Speak.